Welcome everyone to Trini Talks, episode 1, the podcast where we're gonna talk about everything real life, real culture, real issues, everything the Trini way. So, before we jump into all of that, you might be asking, why Darian, of all people, started this podcast? So, we'll jump into that first and then jump into, everything else. So, the reason I would have started this is because, first of all, we have a lot of podcasts from local people, podcasts out there, but my thing is we don't really handle certain situations or talk about certain topics per se pertaining to real issues. We usually just on podcasts talking nonsense, stories, things that happen. And while we're gonna do a bunch of that here too, what I want this to be is also a platform where we could branch out and talk about serious things and things that affected us as Trinis growing up, or even now that we weren't able to just crowd there and talk with everyone about. So that is the main thing I want to get out of this podcast. So this wouldn't be a news podcast, it wouldn't be a gossip podcast. It's just gonna be real conversations about us, our culture, things we experience, things we shy away from, topics we do not like to discuss, things we tend to hide and talk about because, it have certain topics we talk about where you'll only feel comfortable if you talk about it with a friend or things like that. We want to break that stigma with this podcast and try to, as it said, talk like Trinis about everything. So diving out of that is what this podcast is going to be about moving forward. So we're gonna have all the fun, jokes, laughs, everything else, but we'll try to fit in things in it that are a little more serious as well when that time comes. So moving on now, let's talk about what it means to really be a Trini. So being a Trini, you'll hear a lot of people say being a Trini means you stand up and you eat a doubles, we laid back or we just avoid issues all the time. Every time we hear something happening like a storm coming or whatever, we say God is a Trini, it'll miss we. And people all around the world tend to see us as, or outsiders tend to see us as this happy go lucky, fun people, especially around this time, which is carnival time. We tend to get a lot of that. But are we really laid back, or are we just, chilling, avoiding the issues? Because again, there are certain things some of us are scared to talk about or don't want to talk about. So, things like that. So a prime example of that is, let me look at it like hospitality versus impatience. Some people may see it as hospitality where, how do I put this? You stand up by doubles man, you tell doubles man, one to go. Then two people come and order before you and they get the doubles. Then you might say, doubles man, don't forget man, one to go please. People might say, all right, well, you're being nice here, you think, but we both know that's the Trini impatience, and we really want of us to cuss and tell the dollars man, hey, what you doing? I was here first. Things like that. So, other things we would have grown up as saying is a Trini. Let me just take this story for example. Growing up as a Trini, everybody heard the parents telling you about they used to walk a mile to go to school. That's being part of being a Trini. That's something you're going to grow up here in. So things like that make you a Trini. A next relatable thing to make you a Trini is everybody have that one story where they get drunk and they fall down the stairs or they vomit in a party. Every Trini have a story like that. I have a story like that. But we're not going to get into them stories today. We'll save that for our next episode. We have stories to tell. But these are different things that make you a Trini. Alright, so this episode not gonna be too long. It's gonna be just a short episode 1 introduction, a rundown into what we're gonna start discussing. So yeah, and next thing that we could talk about is things that only Trinis would understand. Something like that is that we just said during election. Election is the one time every Trini all of a sudden have a law degree and know everything about elections, know everything about law. That's something being a Trini is. And next one is being a Trini. Your partner and them call you to line. You say you come in just now way around the corner. This time you home. You ain't leave home yet. You still contemplating if you going and leave home. So if you have stories like this, let me know. But these are only things Trinis would understand. So and next thing is being a Trini is you have AC home, you're complaining about the heat, but you're refusing to use the AC. That is only something a Trini would understand. If you grew up in a Trini household, you'll understand that. You'll also understand something is loud music is problems. Loud music from anybody else in the village or around is problems unless it's your music. So that's things Trini people would understand, real things we would understand as a culture, as a people, because we grew up with these things. All right, so I want you all to send in some stories, some that I could read when I'm out here doing this podcast. We could talk about some of all your stories and experiences as well, not just mine. I have some to give all you. We'll try to do that on the next episode. But as I say, this first episode is just an introduction, a quick hello, hi, introduce all of what we're going to be talking to, how we're going to be doing it. I'm thinking to do this every 2 weeks or so. I'm hoping to have a few people jump in and join in, so we have more people to interact with and talk and share stories and things. I was supposed to have somebody to do episode 1 with, but the pull a Trini on my and the end here. So now it's me by myself fighting up. But the show had to go on. So yeah, that's it. That's how it does be. And next thing I also want to talk about on this podcast, jumping a little more into something serious, is where we heading as a people. So, keeping it realistic, keeping it honest, where we really heading as a people. And by that, I mean young people and opportunities. If it makes sense, migrating or staying here. The culture here, the hustling culture here, where everybody trying to make a dollar because things hard. Social media, a lot of us on social media now. Is it helping us? Is it not helping us? That's the thing. We don't know. Things like that we want to get into and discuss. And next thing is conversations over arguments. And I say that because as Trinidadians, we tend to say we want to have conversations, but usually it does erupt into arguments. And that's something we usually don't know the difference between the conversations and the arguments. And we tend to interchange between them, saying they're the same thing, but it really not. So that is something as well we had to touch on, because even now, growing up, you would hear, although we just use the example again, as a child growing up in the Caribbean, when you're trying to have a conversation with your parents sometimes, you might hear things like, don't get my vex, I don't want to talk about that this hour. Or them just going and tell you, I don't want to hear that. Why are you arguing with me? Stop arguing. I is your mother, I is your father. But in reality, what you're trying to do is have a conversation with them. And this is something that I feel a little bit overlooked in our culture. And that is something we kind of have to work on changing. That for sure. Conversations matter. And again, there's plenty conversations a lot of us don't have or can't have with the people we need to have it with until it's too late. And I feel like that's something we need to break out of. Both the older heads and the younger generation, we need to be able to have that conversation. Be it about simple things or things that on your chest bothering you, even if it's complicated, we need to have that grounds where we could sit down with your parents, your siblings, your cousins, your whoever it is, have these conversations and it not just turn into argument like we say. So that's one thing. The next thing, as I mentioned before, is the social media. Social media, is it helping us or hurting us? So that's a double-sided sword, a double-edged sword, if you want to put it that way, because it's a bit about, we see it nowadays that social media helping a lot of us express ourselves out there to the world. But with that freedom comes a little bit of responsibility, like Spider-Man said, because in this country we realize that yes, we have free speech to a degree, but we see when you take it a little too far, police coming by your house and locking you up. A prime example of that is it had somebody who went on TikTok or something like that and they was threatening the prime minister or something and they get locked up. So things like that we had to look out for. And this is where, again, social media is helping or it's hurting, because again, people able to apply for jobs online, social media, reach out to other companies, brands, whoever it is, and talk to them. And then it have the people who using it the wrong way and them using it to cause problems. So, we gotta dive a little more into that later on too. On the next episode, we could dive into that. And again, opportunities. That was the first point I bring up. Where we headed? Opportunities. Young people and opportunities. Right now, in this country, the young people are struggling because, now we look at it this way. A lot of us have degrees. We graduate from UWI. Honors, no honors. I graduate with honors. And I still can't get a job in my field. I out here doing whatever what I get to get money. But that is something we had to talk about. It have no opportunity for us young people out here. Unless you have links. Links is the way to go down here. And we ain't talking about your card where you tap and you swipe. Not that links. You need to have links to get work down here, it look like. Because everybody trying. And unless you know somebody, you ain't getting through. And it always had that uncle or that auntie who taking your resume to carry it to get work for you. 10 years later, you're still waiting to hear if that resume reach and who call you. But I digress. The point is, opportunities are real scarce out here, especially for the young people. We have nothing. And a lot of us growing up wanted to be certain things, aspire to be certain things. And now we off that path a little bit because it hard to go there. And again, there's our next conversation, this leading into the previous point, these things we need to be able to sit and talk with parents about and adults. Because, certain adults feel you're a child because they're older than you and they give birth to you. So you will always be that child. But in reality, you're not a child anymore, and it have certain things you would want to talk to them about. And this is one. Opportunities. So that would lead you into the next major point. Migration or staying here. So plenty of us think about the migrating factor, and it's a good option because it have plenty you could do out there. Plenty we could do out there. That means we could either get a better job up there, better education. If you have family up there and they call for you, you go and you see life is not perfect up there, but you have more opportunities in that regard up there. The lifestyle, everything else, a lot of people prefer there. Where it have some of us who can't leave because we tied down here. And staying is the only option. And now we're struggling to get work. We're struggling to pay our bills. You think I want to do social media for the rest of my life? I love it. I want to, but I want a proper job. This not paying me. I just hear talk in my mind because I like to talk. My mouth big since I small, them telling me I just talk real plenty, so I hear talking. Understand? But let me be real. Not everybody getting paid off of social media. I started YouTube during COVID. The week after I get my diploma, my graduation certificate with my honors and everything, COVID start. The week after, since then, I cannot get a proper job in my field. I had one or two here and there, but When them contracts end, that is it. That is it. Ministry is not calling you. No matter if you're qualified or not and applied and not calling you. I drop out hundreds of resumes, no calls. We're talking about going to the same ministry every month and dropping a new resume, no calls. So again, that's how it is. So I out here doing content as well as working. But my content is, as I say, I like to talk. I like to do things. I not getting paid from YouTube. YouTube, I didn't have enough subscribers. I ain't getting paid for this podcast. Me don't even know if anybody going to listen to this. This is just me talking. Alright? But we out here finding outlets to do things. Everybody trying to hustle, and there's the hustle culture here now. We all trying to make a little bit of money somewhere and kind of target areas of our passion to do something. All my jobs I've ever had is talking to people and talking. My passion is content. My passion is my degree. My degree and line of work involves talking to people, but I'm not getting through that work, so I'm talking to people on the internet. That is the next best bet, right? So I'm channeling everything here. But again, me ain't getting paid for this. Me don't even know if all you watching this or listening to this. So, is always something that we have to talk about as Trinis. Everything we could talk about. But again, that is what this podcast is going to be about. I want to hear all your side of things. Give me stories, give me topics, things we could bring up and talk about. Not just for me, for all you. I could tell all you some of my stories. That's fine. Maybe the next episode 2, we'll talk about some stories. I want going forward each episode to be close to an hour 45 minutes. This first one will be a little bit short because it's just an intro into what this going to be about. But I want this podcast to grow, but I want it to grow with you. I want you to grow with it. So I want us to grow together in a sense, using the information from this, the feedback from this, the comments from this, all of this for everybody who watching it to grow. And that's the next thing. If anything I say in this podcast hit home or strike a nerve or hit a chord or however the Trinis like to phrase it, let me know what it is. Feel free to leave a comment and say something. If all you have something to say it below. Don't just hear it and say, I agree with that. But don't say something and have people out here in this world who does be thinking the same thing you thinking. You just don't know who you can reach out to and talk to about it, because nobody does talk about it in the open. So again, if you hear anything that sound like you or resonate with you, drop a comment down below. Let us know so we could talk about it, if all you want, all you could drop comments, all your normal social medias down below. You could send a voice note. I will play it if you want me to play it for people to hear your side, wherever it would be. Let me know. Alright? That's one thing that we want to do. We want this to be open platform for not just fancy famous people. Everybody should have a say in something here. Alright? And the last thing on closing, right? The last thing is we need to come up with a catchphrase. Like, I don't know. I can throw some out here and all you tell me which one sound like the one we should go forward with from the next few episodes, right? I have a few lined up, right? So here what it is. I'm going to list them out. All you tell me which one all you like. So we have real talk, real culture, real Trinis. That is one. We have our next one. If you know, you know. Trini talks. If all you like that one, have our next one that all you might like. We lime, we laugh, but we talk Trini talk. And last but not least, the last one. From the block to the world, or from around the block to around the world, Trini talks. So they let me know which one song the nicest. We go drop out. We go make a little edit. We go throw it up. All you see, I had the little picture design. You see? I could do little design and thing, I could do more than just talk. I could edit videos. I could create pictures. I could edit pictures. I know how to do all kind of thing. I just can't get a proper walk in my field. Because apparently I need to have a horse, a cow, a goat, a chicken, and everything else in between to get a walk. But that aside, I hope all you enjoyed this little piece of nonsense here that we talk. We had some serious things that, could resonate with some people. And the next few episodes, we will jump into jumping. We go jump into jumping. That's a Trini thing, but we go jump into talking about them. If all you want, next episode, I'll give all you some stories. We could probably start with some school stories and work our way up. Or I could start with some movie stories. I could start with some of them scary story things too. We have a bunch of stories. So I have some crazy ones, I have some normal ones. Let me know. We go jump in and talk about something on the next episode. But this episode gonna be about 20 minutes. This is the first one. I'm looking at trying to do this every 2 weeks or every week if possible. If not every week, every 2 weeks. There's gonna be episode 1, the introduction, and hopefully episode 2, I have somebody here to talk to, and it's not just me talking to a camera and a screen alone. Cause the little back and forth gonna be good now, boy. So we go work on that. And we go see how that go. But yeah, until then, I'll see you all here, and all you will hear me in the next one. So yeah, later.